The ship arrived without warning. It did not scream through the sky or light up the horizon. It simply appeared above the old trading outpost, like a tired thought that had drifted too far from home. The metal hull was smooth but scarred, shaped in curves that did not belong to human design. Its engines flickered, coughed, and finally went silent as it settled into the dust beyond the repair yards. Inside the outpost, most people barely noticed. Ships came and went every week, and no one here had the time or energy to look up unless something exploded. This place lived on broken things: machines that failed, engines that refused to start, and vessels that needed one more chance to fly. Evan Holt was under a cargo hauler when the ground gave a small tremble. Dust fell onto his face. He sighed, wiped his hands on a rag, and rolled out from beneath the hauler. "Another landing," he muttered. "Hope they brought parts." He was in his early 30s, lean, with grease-stained clothes and a calm face shaped by long hours of quiet work. His repair bay was not much to look at. Tools hung from uneven hooks. Scrap parts filled wooden crates. Old machines sat beside newer ones, connected by wires and hope. Evan did not rush toward the landing site. He finished tightening a bolt, checked the engine once more, and only then stood up fully. Whatever had landed would still be there. The alien woman stepped down from her ship alone. She was taller than most humans, her movements smooth and controlled. Her skin carried a faint silver tone, not metallic, but not quite flesh-colored either. Her eyes were dark and reflective, like polished stone. She wore a fitted travel suit that looked grown rather than built, shaped perfectly to her form. Her name was Kyalira of the Ninth Spiral, though no one here knew that yet. She paused at the bottom of the ramp and looked around. The outpost was disappointing. Buildings made of patched metal, walkways repaired with mismatched plates, power lines exposed and humming softly. Humans moved between stalls and repair bays, shouting, laughing, arguing, fixing. Kalira felt a familiar sense of discomfort. This place smelled of heat, fuel, and imperfection. Her ship was old by her people's standards. A survey vessel meant for long-distance observation, not close contact. It should never have needed repairs from a species like this, but systems had failed in ways her diagnostics could not resolve. Replacement components were no longer produced by her civilization. Efficiency had removed the need for repair. Humans, according to her cultural records, still repaired. That was why she was here. She walked toward the repair yards, ignoring curious stares. Humans always stared. Their faces were open, their emotions poorly hidden. It was unsettling. When she reached Evan's Bay, she stopped. She had chosen it because it looked the most chaotic. Experience had taught her that humans who worked in disorder often understood systems deeply enough to bend rules. If anyone could help her, it would be someone like this. Evan noticed her when her shadow crossed the open doorway. He looked up, eyes adjusting, and froze for half a second. Not because she was alien. Aliens were not rare, but because something about her presence felt quiet and heavy, like standing near deep water.
Hi, he said simply.
Kalira studied him. His posture was relaxed. No signs of fear, no signs of submission. He did not bow or step back. Interesting. "I require mechanical assistance," she said. Her voice was calm, clear, and precise. "Spare parts, human manufactured." Evan nodded. "You came to the right place. What kind of ship?" She hesitated, then answered, "Survey vessel. Non-human design." "Most are," Evan said. "You got specs?" "I have data," she replied. Tapping a small device on her wrist, a soft light flickered, projecting complex diagrams into the air. Evan leaned closer, squinting. "Huh," he said after a moment. "That's elegant. But this coupling here, yeah, that would fail under thermal stress." Kalira's eyes narrowed slightly. That component has a failure rate of less than 1%. Yeah, Evan replied. But that 1% shows up after a long time, not short tests. You've been flying a while. Halira said nothing. He was correct. That's not all, though, Evan continued, walking over to a rack of parts. Your vibration dampeners are too rigid. No flex. Humans learn the hard way that perfect stiffness breaks things faster. You have not even seen the ship, Kalira said. Evan smiled faintly. Don't need to. Machines talk. Most people just don't listen. That unsettled her more than she expected. She followed him out to the landing area. Evan walked slowly around the ship, not touching it at first. He closed his eyes briefly, placing a hand against the hull. Kalira felt a strange twist in her chest. No one from her species touched ships like this anymore. Interfaces existed for a reason. Physical contact was unnecessary. Evan stepped back. Yeah, I hear it. Your left side stabilizer is out of sync with the core. That is impossible, Kalira said. The system reports no error. Systems lie, Evan replied, especially when they don't know how to be wrong. He climbed up the ramp, asking permission with a glance. She nodded, unsure why. Inside, the ship was clean, quiet, and almost empty. No loose cables. No exposed panels. Everything was sealed. Evan whistled softly. You folks don't like mess. Disorder invites failure, Kalira said automatically. Evan shook his head. Nah. Disorder shows you where things want to change. He opened a panel using a tool he pulled from his pocket. It did not fit perfectly, but he adjusted his grip until it worked. Kalira watched closely. He found the problem quickly, a component worn down just enough to cause instability, but not enough to trigger alerts. This, Evan said, holding it up. You don't make these anymore, do you? No, Kalira said. They were removed from production cycles centuries ago. Evan chuckled. Figures. Humans would keep this stuff alive forever. He replaced it with a human-made part, slightly larger, reinforced with layered material. It did not match the rest of the ship's design. Kalira frowned. That is incompatible, on paper, Evan said. In reality, it'll work better. He powered the system briefly. The ship hummed, steadier than before. Kalira felt her breath catch. Impossible. They worked for hours. Evan explained what he was doing in simple terms, not talking down, not showing off. Kalira asked questions she never thought to ask before, not about how systems worked, but why humans chose certain solutions. As the cycle lights dimmed outside, Kalira realized something unsettling. She was enjoying this. Not just the success of the repairs, but the conversation. The way Evan cared about the ship as if it were alive. The way he treated failure as a puzzle, not a disgrace. When they finally stopped, Evan wiped his hands and leaned back. She'll fly, he said. Might even fly better than before. Kalira looked at her ship, then at him. You have exceeded expectations, she said quietly. Evan shrugged. Just doing my job. She hesitated, then said, I will need to remain here while additional adjustments are made. No problem, Evan replied. Got plenty of space. And plenty of broken things. As she turned toward the outpost, Kalira felt something unfamiliar settle inside her. She had come for spare parts. She was not sure anymore what else she might find. Kalira stayed. At first she told herself it was only logical. The repairs Evan had done were helpful, but not complete. Her ship still needed fine adjustments, testing, and time. Leaving too early would risk failure during travel, and failure was unacceptable. That was the reason, she repeated in her thoughts. But as the first night passed in the human outpost, Kalira realized something was different. Her ship rested quietly in the repair yard, systems stable in a way they had not been for a long time. The hum of the core was smoother, almost comfortable. She had run diagnostics 3 times. Each time the results showed improvement beyond original design limits. That should have satisfied her. Instead, she found herself watching the repair bay from the open ramp, observing Evan as he worked on other ships. He moved with easy focus. When something did not work, he did not grow tense or frustrated. He simply paused, thought, and tried another way. Humans around him asked questions, joked, complained. Evan listened, responded, and returned to his work without losing rhythm. Halira did not understand how he could exist in such noise and still think clearly. On her world, workspaces were silent, efficient, controlled. Emotion was removed to prevent error. Here, emotion seemed to fuel progress. The next morning, Evan arrived early, carrying a mug that smelled strongly of something bitter. "You sleep okay?" he asked casually as he climbed into the ship. "I do not sleep," Halira replied. "I enter a low-processing rest cycle." Evan nodded. "Sounds nice. I just pass out." He began running manual checks, tapping panels, listening. Halira followed closely, watching every movement. "You're not using standard calibration tools," she said. "Don't need them," Evan replied. "They're good, but they don't tell you how a machine feels. That concept is unclear." Evan smiled. "Yeah, most folks say that." He stopped near the engine housing and frowned slightly. "There's something else." Kylira's posture tightened. "A failure?" "Not yet," Evan said. "More like a bad habit." He explained that the ship's systems were too rigid, too perfect. They resisted change, which meant small problems built up instead of spreading out safely. "Humans learn to let machines bend," he said, "like trees in the wind." Kylira listened carefully. Her people valued perfection above all else. Systems were built to exact standards. Deviation was corrected immediately or removed. "But imperfection creates weakness," she said. "Sometimes," Evan agreed. "Sometimes it creates strength." He modified another component, adding flexible joints and layered dampeners. Kylira watched in silence as he worked, occasionally asking questions. Evan answered them patiently, using simple words, drawing diagrams on scrap paper when needed. She noticed something strange. He never acted like her questions were foolish. Back home, questioning established systems was seen as inefficiency. Curiosity was tolerated only when productive. Here, curiosity seemed welcome. Later that day, Evan invited her to walk through the outpost. "You've been staring at the same panels for hours," he said. "Come see how the rest of us break things." Kylira hesitated. Her mission parameters did not include social interaction, but she followed him. They passed food stalls, traders, mechanics arguing over prices, children running between stacked crates. Everything felt unstable, yet alive. "Why does this place function?" Kylira asked, honestly. "There is no central coordination." Evan shrugged. "We talk. We help. We mess up. Then we fix it." "That sounds inefficient." "Yeah," Evan said. "But it works." They stopped near a small generator that was sputtering and failing. A group of humans surrounded it, debating loudly. Evan stepped in, listened for a moment, then adjusted a valve using a tool someone handed him. The generator steadied. Kylira watched the humans cheer lightly and return to their tasks. No praise logs were recorded, no efficiency reports filed. They simply moved on. That night, Kylira reviewed her mission logs. She hesitated before updating her report. Humans were listed as a secondary species, technologically outdated, useful only in limited contexts. That description no longer felt accurate. The next days passed quickly. Evan continued improving her ship, sometimes asking Kalira for input. Other times he surprised her by predicting system behavior before diagnostics could confirm it. At one point, a major recalibration failed unexpectedly. The system shut down. Lights dimming. Kalira froze. On her world, this would have meant immediate shutdown and replacement. The ship would be declared unreliable. Evan just sighed. "Well," he said, "guess we learned something." He reopened panels, adjusted the design, and rerouted energy flow. It took hours, but the system came back online, stronger than before. Kalira felt something shift inside her. Failure, to humans, was not shameful. It was information. Later, she asked Evan why he became a mechanic. He thought for a moment. "My family fixed things. My dad used to say broken doesn't mean useless. It just means someone hasn't listened yet." Kalira repeated that sentence quietly to herself. Broken doesn't mean useless. That night, she sat alone in her ship, staring at the stars. For the first time in many cycles, she did not feel the pull to leave immediately. She wondered what her people had lost when they stopped repairing. She wondered what she was losing by staying detached. And she wondered why a human mechanic, surrounded by scrap and noise, felt more advanced than the most perfect systems she had ever known. As the ship rested, humming softly, Kalira realized something she could not yet explain. She no longer saw humans as primitive. She saw them as adaptable, and that thought frightened her more than any system failure ever had. The message arrived while the ship was quiet. Kalira noticed it the moment her internal system shifted priority. A signal, narrow and encrypted, pushed through her personal interface. The source code was unmistakable. The 9th spiral. Her people had finally reached her. She stood still inside the ship, the soft light of the control panels reflecting across her face. The ship hummed gently around her, steady and calm, as if unaware that everything might soon change. She did not open the message at once. Instead, she looked toward the open ramp, where Evan was outside, adjusting a stabilizer on another vessel. He was laughing with another mechanic, hands moving easily, his body relaxed. This place had changed her more than she expected. When she finally opened the message, the tone was formal and cold. Her superiors requested a full status report. Ship condition. Mission delay explanation. Environmental assessment of the human outpost. Resource value confirmation. They expected efficiency. Numbers. Clear conclusions. Kalira closed her eyes briefly. The old version of herself would have answered without hesitation. The next day, Evan noticed the change. Kalira was quieter, more distant. She still assisted with testing and adjustments, but her focus drifted. Her movements lacked their usual precision. "You okay?" Evan asked, wiping grease from his hands. "Yes," she replied too quickly. Evan raised an eyebrow but did not press. Humans had learned when to wait. They continued working. Evan made a final adjustment to the engine flow, then stepped back. "That should do it," he said. "Take her up for a short run later. Nothing fancy." Kalira nodded. "Your work has exceeded expected parameters." Evan smiled, glad to hear it. There was a pause. "You'll be leaving soon, I guess?" he added lightly. Kalira felt something tighten in her chest. "Yes," she said, soon. That night, she reviewed her report again. Humans were adaptable, creative, resilient. But how would her people see that? Her civilization had grown strong by removing uncertainty, by eliminating inefficiency, by abandoning systems that failed. Humans did the opposite. They stayed with failure. They learned from it, and that made them unpredictable. Kalira knew what that meant in the language of the 9th spiral. Unpredictable species were often labeled as risks. The thought unsettled her deeply. The following day, Evan invited her to watch a test flight. The ship lifted smoothly, engines responding with ease. The changes he had made worked together better than the original design ever had. Kalira guided the ship in a gentle arc above the outpost, then brought it down again without effort. When she stepped out, Evan was smiling wide. "Told you," he said. "She just needed a little care." Kalira looked at her ship, then at him.
In my culture, she said slowly, we no longer build ships to be cared for. Evan frowned.
"Why not?" "Because care requires time," Kalira replied, "and time is seen as waste." Evan shook his head.
Sounds lonely. The word hit her harder than expected. Lonely.
She had never thought of her civilization that way. Yet standing there, surrounded by people who joked, argued, fixed, and failed together, the comparison felt painfully clear. Later that evening, a power fluctuation swept through part of the outpost. Lights flickered. A water system shut down unexpectedly. Kalira watched as humans rushed to respond, not in panic, but with purpose. Evan joined them immediately, grabbing tools, coordinating with others without orders or rank. She followed, assisting where she could. Within hours, the problem was solved. Temporary fixes were made, permanent ones planned. No one blamed anyone. No one recorded fault. They simply moved forward. Kalira returned to her ship afterward, exhausted in a way she did not recognize. It was not physical fatigue. It was emotional weight. She opened the report interface again. Her fingers hovered over the input fields. If she wrote the truth as her people defined it, Earth would remain classified as expendable. A place of materials, not minds. If she wrote what she felt, everything would change. She thought of Evan listening to machines like living things. She thought of humans fixing generators with laughter and argument. She thought of failure treated as a teacher, not a shame. Slowly, carefully, she began to write. The next day, Evan noticed something else was wrong. Kalira avoided his eyes. "You sure you're okay now?" he asked gently. "I am facing a decision," she replied. "Big one?"
Yes. Evan nodded. Those are rough.
She hesitated, then asked, "If your people discovered a species that challenged your understanding of progress, what would you do?"
Evan leaned against a crate, thinking.
"I'd probably want to learn from them, maybe work together." "And if they were considered dangerous?" Evan shrugged. "Everything worth knowing is a little dangerous." Kalira studied him closely. "You are not afraid of change?" Evan asked. "Sure, sometimes. But fear doesn't mean stop. It means be careful." That night, she finalized the report. She did not exaggerate. She did not hide weaknesses. But she reframed the truth. Humans were not primitive. They were adaptive. They were capable of repairing what others abandoned. They were emotionally driven. But that emotion led to cooperation, innovation, and survival under extreme conditions. She classified humanity not as a resource, but as a developing partner species. She recommended observation, not exploitation. Peaceful engagement, not extraction. When the report transmitted, Kalira felt a strange mix of relief and fear. There would be consequences. The next morning, she went to Evans Bay early. "My departure window approaches," she said. Evan looked up from his work, expression unreadable. "Figured. I altered my mission report," Kalira continued, "because of what I learned here." Evan paused. "DA, that's a big deal, isn't it?" "Yes. Was it worth it?" Kalira met his eyes. Yes. They stood in silence for a moment. "I will not forget this place," she added, "or what you taught me." Evan smiled softly. "Same goes for you." As Kalira walked back toward her ship, she realized something important. She had come seeking spare parts. But what she found was a new way to see progress, and that, she knew, would change far more than just her mission.